Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we are back mostly unscathed from an incredible weekend at PAX Unplugged 2024. We played tons of games, met a ton of people, and I'm excited to report back to you guys what kind of most caught my eye and what we picked up to give you a little bit of an idea of what is coming soon to the channel and what I'm really excited to get played. So I'm just going to break it down from Friday to Sunday and talk about some of the games that we played on each of those days. Now we started off Friday pretty strong, hanging out with Altay, who were letting us preview their upcoming crowdfunding game Twinkle Twinkle. And Twinkle Twinkle is a game designed by Amon Anderson, who's pretty hot this year because he did design Gnome Hollow, another pretty popular game at PAX this year. But Twinkle Twinkle is a open drafting tile placement game where you're using these really cool acrylic tiles to build out constellations. Now, I like two things about this game a lot. One is the drafting system. So you're going to have 5 tiles if you're playing a 4-player game, and then depending on which tile you take, that's going to determine turn order for the next game. But what I really like is that there is a row next to that where you can see the tiles that you're going to be able to draft the next round. So really, I think a big issue with a lot of drafting games is like sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, right? Sometimes you're pulling things out of a bag and you're kind of having to be more reactionary than strategic. And I think just seeing one round ahead is a really nice touch. So I think that makes it that much more kind of enjoyable as you start to build out this constellation. The other thing that I really like about it is the variable scoring conditions. So every game is going to have 2 scoring conditions for constellations. That's going to be the same no matter what. But on the right side of the board, you're going to have a couple different tiles where you're going to be able to choose different scoring conditions. There's like basic ones and then advanced ones. Because on those tiles, there's a lot of other different elements. There's black holes and planets and satellites and comets, and those are all going to score in different ways depending on how you want to set up the game. And so I like that little bit of modularity where you can mix and match these scoring conditions, make it as advanced or as kind of simple as you want to, and just a really enjoyable game. And those acrylic tiles with like the constellations just feels really nice. So excited. We actually got a preview copy of this, so be on the lookout sometime in January. I'll post a little bit more in-depth coverage on that. After that, we went to see the folks at Kosmos, and they were showing off 2 new games coming out in 2025. The first one is Australis. Now in Australis, you're playing as a sea turtle, swimming along the ocean, collecting coral, eating clownfish, doing these different things. But what I really like about it is the core mechanism of dice placements, because you're going to have a couple of different colored dice, and you're going to be able to put them on different spots of the board to either move your turtle, do like set collection with these different coral types. You can get some special ability cards, or you can collect food. And I just really like, big fan of dice placement. I think this theme is really nice. Obviously the Finding Nemo fans out there are going to love it. And just seems like a nice family weight dice placement game. That's Australis, hopefully coming out next year. Looks pretty cool. Now the other game, and this is one that kind of surprised me, is the Crew family. So the Crew is a pretty long-running series for Kosmos, very well-known trick-taking game. I am awful at trick-taking, so I kind of bounced off both Crew games. But the Crew family, I think, is a little bit more of a family / like kids weight game. Hopefully, maybe it's going to like be meant to kind of teach those concepts of trick-taking, and then kind of let you graduate up to regular Crew. Because in the Crew family, you're going to have a shared board where you're able to track different objectives, right? If you're trying to go for a specific card, you're able to like mark it or mark what you played on the shared board, so you can keep track of information a little bit more easily. It feels like everyone else is like light years ahead of me in playing trick taking, so maybe the Crew family will be a nice game to kind of help get me up to speed. After that, we went to see the folks at Floodgate, who were showing off a new game called Landmarks. And this one I'm really, really excited for. Landmarks feels like if you took code names a little bit of like So Clover, word association, and then put them on an adventure map. Because in Landmarks, one person is going to be giving 1-word clues, everyone else is going to be working cooperatively to interpret those clues, but the way that clues are given in this game is really interesting, where the clue giver is going to write on a tile, a word, and then the rest of the team has to place it on this island. And so there's going to be existing clues on the map already, and you have to place those clues in like matching areas. Like if there's like a castle and a wall and the clue giver writes cannon, where do you think in between that wall and castle would the cannon go? And so like it kind of built out like this really interesting landscape as you continue giving clues. The clue giver has like a little map in front of them, very Codenames-esque, where you're going to have like different treasures. There might be like curse locations, right, like the assassin where you'll die, so you don't want to send them there. and just it adds like a cool board game element to these word association games. So we did also got a copy of this, so upcoming with the holidays, we're really excited to break this out. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Up next, we went over to the folks at Rock Manor, and they had 2 new projects that they were showing off that were gonna be going to crowdfunding next year. First one that really got me excited was StarDriven Gateway. And now this is another dice placement / worker placement game where you're going to have this like little player board in front of you, and you're going to be controlling your own spaceship. It has exploration, it has like combat, it has different like contracts you're trying to fulfill, and I just love that like simulation of controlling your own little ship is just really neat to me. I like that like dice placement that's kind of driving it. Now the other game they were showing off, I want to make sure I read this right, Disco Heist Laundry. Now this is a tableau building game where you are going to be building out your own crew of criminals, and you're going to be trying to rob banks and casinos and that sort of thing. But the twist to this game is that you also have to launder this money. So in addition to running like a crew where you're trying to steal things, you're also trying to like manage this money laundering scheme as well, because the person at the end of the game who has the most clean money is going to be the winner. And so that's just like a cool twist on the, you know, like running a crime heist team sort of board game. It has this cool 80s neon style. And again, I like what Rock Manor is doing. I always want to keep an eye on them. So this looks really, really neat coming soon. I also learned that these folks are local to me, so it'd be really cool if we could hook up and do some collaborations. I would love to get this game a little more exposure. I think it's really, really cool what they're doing. I like Rock Manor as a company. I love Lawyer Up. I like Set a Watch. I like a lot of what they're doing there. And if you're enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing to join the channel. We're going to have a lot of exciting coverage for a lot of these games coming soon. I do a lot of previews and reviews and playthroughs and list videos and all sorts of board game content. And towards the end of the year, we're going to have some fun end of year lists to talk about. And so just a lot of good stuff going into December in 2025. I'm so excited going into the new year for the channel. Next up, we went to see the folks at North Star Game. Their big game this year was Nature, that is now starting to get fulfilled. And the other game that caught our eye was Biomos. And this is a game that looks like if you took Luxor, the like old like early 2000s computer game, and like made it into a board game where you're going to have these like different little colored marble tokens, and you're going to be sending out colors to like put them in between each other, trying to fulfill different pattern conditions. So we did get a review copy of this. I'm really excited to play it because there's just something like that is like brain candy to building like those little patterns and like, you know, sinking them in and like moving these things around. It does look like a lot of fun, so I'm excited to try Biomos. Up next, we went to see Cephalofair Games. They always have a nice presence at PAX, and their big release, obviously they have Frosthaven. They were showing off demos of Gloomhaven 2nd edition, but what I really wanted to check out was Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs. How do you take this complex, big game of Gloomhaven and make it into not quite a wallet size, or not quite pocket sized, but still extremely, extremely small box. So I really like what they were doing here. The designer of Gloomholden, that was the original 18 card Gloomhaven. They had Nikki Valens, who was a co-designer on it, who I really like their designs, and it just looked really, really neat. So we also got a copy of this. I'm really excited to share this one with you guys. Maybe we could do some playthroughs if you want to see that, but I'm excited to see how they're going to adapt a lot of Gloomhaven into such a small package. They also were teasing that new things are coming next year, so I really hope that means that some kind of Jaws of the Lion sequel set in the Frosthaven world is coming. I would love that. I enjoyed my play of Jaws of the Lion. I would love to kind of revisit that game, but again, the big old box is sometimes intimidating. Now the next game that caught my eye, and I was really happy to go see it, was from Solus Games, and this is the Massive Verse card game. This is a board game channel. I don't have really excuse to talk about comics a lot of the time, but the Massive Verse is one of my favorite comic book modern superhero stories. If you're a fan of superhero stuff at all, go check out the Massive Verse. But it was cool to see that it is getting this theme for this head-to-head card game. So it's like a 10 or 15 minute, they say, card game where each deck only has 7 cards and you're just playing back and forth. Very tactical experience. You can kind of know what's in your opponent's deck. All the decks are themed on these like different superheroes. I think this is adapting an existing system that Solus had. I hadn't played that Pocket Paradigms before, so I'm really excited to break this. I'm always on the lookout for quick little 2-player games. Next, we went to see the folks at Incredible Dream. My thing I wanted to get there was the final Kinfire Delve. I now have all 3 of them. This is a game I've really, really been enjoying. I kind of wanted the entire trilogy before I made a proper video. I'm kind of digging more deep into them, but this is one of the best solo or co-op card-based dungeon crawls that I've ever played. It is so, so good. I can't wait to kind of go into more detail and make a video for that for you guys. And then at this point on Friday, we were getting pretty tired, so we kind of wanted to take a little break. So we went to check out the Ravensburger area, and we played this little silly take that game called Oh My Pigeons, where you're just playing cards to like collect these cute little pigeon tiles. You're like flicking your poo dice at people to like take their pigeons out. Again, we were really tired, but like sometimes a silly game like this just like hits right. And Oh My Pigeons did. We actually did get a copy of this. Also because you got a token for a claw machine that you could go and win a pigeon plushie thing, so that was really cool. Also a quick shout out to the Horrified team. Last year they had cosplayers as Greek monsters to show off the new Horrified release. This year with the World of Monsters and the Krampus promo, they had Krampus running around the Ravensburger booth causing chaos, messing with people's Lorcana games. That was really cool to see as well. And then our final game we went to check out was over in the CGE room. Of course, we had to go check out SETI. Now, SETI is the big Euro, the big CGE release for this year. A lot of different mechanics. You were running this like science agency who's trying to find and confirm extraterrestrial life. What really shocked me is that while this has a lot of little different mechanics on the board, they kind of come together pretty smoothly. I think that kind of shocked me. I thought it was going to be like way too much to kind of like comprehend in an overview demo, but I thought SETI looked really cool. I love the board. There's like this kind of like rotating center board where you're like lining up your satellites to look at different areas of the sky. Really cool game. And the other game they were showing off was Little Alchemist. So I never played the original Alchemist that came out a little while ago. And this one is kind of a more kid/family take on that kind of like deduction game. So Little Alchemist actually is really neat because it comes with 7 modules, so you can kind of like scale it as you start to get more and more advanced. We did get a copy of this, so we love deduction. We play with a lot of people who are newer to board games, so I'm excited to see how well Little Alchemist can kind of fill that void of like a deduction game. If it is modular with like these 7 different things you can add or subtract, right, fine-tuning it to the complexity that you like seems really cool. On Saturday, we started off our day chatting with the folks at Osprey, probably best known for the Undaunted series, but this year they were showing off a new release for KATMAI, the Bears of Brook River. And so this is a lane battler where you're controlling bears fighting over salmon in the center of the board, which is like this river. What's really cool about this game, aside from it being a neat lane battler, is that they are working with the KATMAI Conservancy up in Alaska, who are best known for doing Fat Bear Week. So all of the cards in this game are named after fat bears. It has a lot of that kind of theme to it. So I do like, you know, lane battling 1v1 games. I think having this like theme is really cool. A lot of lane battlers tend to be like war or combat focused, but having this like kind of naturey bear theme, very specific theme, is really neat. So we also got a copy of this, so I'm really excited to get this played. After that, we went to check out Dr. Finn Games. I'm a big fan of Steve Finn designs. I like a lot of his games, and we went to play Biblios, Quill, and Parchment. So Biblios, the original card game for me, is like 10 out of 10. I adore that game. So Quill and Parchment is kind of like a roll and write take on it. You can't actually get the original Biblios anymore. It was kind of like rethemed. I don't really like the new version of it. So I was curious to see if Quill and Parchment kind of help, you know, be that replacement for the original Biblios, and it might. I need to get it played a little bit more, so I'm hoping I can get a copy of this and then do like a little bit more of a compare and contrast video to see like, oh, you can't get the original Biblios. Is Quill and Parchment a good replacement? I'm not sure. We played one game of it, we really enjoyed it, but again, it's gonna take some more plays to kind of know that. And then right next to him is this booth for Pipnetic. So Steve Finn actually started like a spin-off company with someone else for like more party-ish word games. So we played What Can I Say, which was kind of like Taboo, if Taboo every round had like specific words. Like you can only say words with certain letters or a certain amount of syllables, or like they end with a certain letter, like these different word conditions that you have to adhere to. I was really bad at it. I don't know, I was like brain fried early in the morning, I guess. I only got like one word. Kate blew it away and did like all 6 words, so your mileage may vary depending on how clever you can be with words. But What Can I Say was really cool, little like take on Taboo. Now up next is a 2-player star of the show for me with Brother Ming Games and React. Now React is a 1v1 game, very asymmetric, where you're going to be controlling this character with like this different weird ability and trying to beat the other person. Now this game has been getting good buzz. I had a little bit of pause because let's be real, a lot of anime themed games can feel a little unpolished, a little more focused on the art than the actual underlying mechanics. And I think what really impressed me with React is that the game, the bones of this game are so solid. The system of playing a card to begin a chain of reactions, and then both players can play react cards, and then resolving that subsequent chain that you just built is so satisfying. It really feels like you're in this intense back and forth battle. There's a lot of strategy to it. The characters are very, very asymmetric, and I'm so excited to play this. This has the potential to become, I think, one of my favorite two-player games, both because of that card play mechanic and also because of the cool themes. The character abilities are really cool. They're all very anime inspired, which I always like, but again, I sometimes feel that games can fall short of adapting a lot of those ideas in a solid mechanical manner. Up next, we went to see the folks at Off the Page Games. My favorite game from them is Mind Management, favorite hidden movement game, but they were showing off 2 new releases. The first was Corpse of Discovery, which is a really cool take on the Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea story with like these different monsters as well. That almost felt like a solo or co-op deduction game where you kind of like slide in this map. It felt like a little bit like almost like Minesweeper sort of thing, where you're getting like these different ingredients and trying to navigate this landscape using these different logic rules, but really, really cool game. The other one they were showing off there was Harrow County, which is an asymmetric 1v1 or 1v1v1 game where you're playing as like these weird supernatural factions. Really cool booth that they had. So Harrow County, I guess the box comes like this dice cube that you can throw down the top of the box. You're able to they had a replica of that tree where you can climb up and then throw dice down it. I love what Off the Page are doing, taking these graphic novels, developing games around them. It leaves their games feeling just dripping with theme and atmosphere, and I really, really like what they're doing. I also want to shout out Envyborn Games. So from them, we have Confusing Lands, which I would love to make a video on soon. I got to get around to that. Really cool small box 1v1 or solo game, but they have a new set of 3 games coming to crowdfunding next year, and I was really impressed by what I saw. So the first one is called Prowl, which is like a 1v1 game where one person is, or both people are playing as tigers, and you're trying to like mark different territory in this jungle, but you're like hidden from each other, and then you might run into each other and then start fighting. That seems like a cool take on a 1v1 game with some like hidden movement sort of thing. The other one was Dragon Roost, where you're running a like dragon cafe. It is a co-op dexterity game, which is really cool. I think that's a really neat take on dexterity. And the last one, we didn't get a chance to really get a good idea of what this game was about, but it's called Space Potato, also designed by Amon Anderson. That name just keeps coming up going into next year. I think this is a little bit of a heavier, more Euro type game in a small box form. So I'm excited with all 3 of these to kind of see what they're going to look like and learn a little bit more about them. Up next, we went to see the folks at Forever Stoked. That kind of felt like a new version of Prospero Hall, this like cooperative of designers and artists and just helping these like fledgling games kind of get to fruition. So they had a ton of different stuff there. So one game there that caught my eye was Floppy Nights. So Floppy Nights is a video game that I really like, and it's cool to see it getting adapted into a board game. It is a programming battling game. So you're going to take your character, you'll have your deck, and then you're going to program out how you move around this grid. It has a lot of different modular maps with like conveyor belts and different hazards. It feels very video gamey, which is appropriate. I'm a big fan of programming games. It's not a mechanic you see super often, so I'm excited to see this one coming out. The next one was a game that I really kind of like side-eyed. I was kind of not expecting much of, but it was called Terrible Influence. And in this game, you're like taking the role of an influencer and trying to like garner fame and money with like these different attribute cards, a little bit like character building-esque. Now, it's a very satirical take on influencer culture. I did appreciate the irony of this designer of this game explaining his game about terrible influencers to a group of board game content creators. That was not lost on me. But the actual kind of quick card play, I think this is going to attract a very, the kind of like general populace, right? Like, haha, we're making fun of influencers, it's funny, but I think the actual card play was kind of neat. We didn't get a chance to play a full game of this, but I actually think this game might have a little potential of kind of opening the door to other card games for folks who just like are not at all into board games. And I think this theme is going to appeal to a lot of folks. And the last one I want to mention from them is Dumpster Fire Party. In a lot of this B-roll, you're going to see a lot of this like happy little dumpster fire thing that's like very cute. It's on fire. It's like basically just a conversation game where like you're writing embarrassing stories and throwing them into the trash can, and then you read them. It's kind of just like a nice party conversation game. But the little toy that they had of the trash can, very cute. It's magnetic, so like you put your player pieces on the fire, and it's very cute. Now, for all my horror fans out there, you're going to appreciate this next game because this is Evil Dead 2, the game. And when I was getting the list together for this video, I was surprised to see that it has a 2020 entry in Board Game Geek, but it doesn't seem like it's out yet. I'm not really sure what happened between it crowdfunding and then switching hands with companies, but for, either way, it seems like Lynnvander Studios, who was showing this game off, is going to be, have it available soon. So this is a game that's kind of recreating, obviously, Evil Dead 2, where you're going to be playing as the humans trying to collect the pages of the Necronomicon and trying to destroy it to seal away all the Deadites. Now, if you're playing this with a team, there's a cool hidden traitor mechanic where someone might be infected as a Deadite and might betray the team. I think this is a really clever and thematic way to do a hidden traitor game, but for any Evil Dead lovers, this seems like a really faithful recreation of the setting of the second movie, and so definitely check it out if you're a fan of Evil Dead like I am. Then we went to go see Happy Camper Studios. So last year they really impressed me with Trio. That was like my most played game last year, just in raw amount of plays. And this year they were showing off a game called Combo, which just kind of felt a little bit like Rummy, a little set collection. But the trick of it is that everyone is playing cards to this shared set of cards. So everyone either scores together or you play a card that doesn't match and try to start your own combo going around the table. And so this is like an interesting game. I'm less familiar with Rummy, so I feel like I need to get a couple more plays of it to really get a solid feel for it. But it worked really well just to kind of like go walk up to the booth, play a game of it, and kind of get a good idea. Camper is doing, really impressed, and I'm excited to see what they're going to keep coming out with. Now, at the end of Saturday, we were super tired, so we went to spend some time in the Crokinole Zone. I love it. I'm glad Tracy Boards continue to sponsor and bring boards to PAX. They actually sell them there, so if you're able to get a hold of one, that's really cool. They do a tournament. They're just such a friendly company, and I'm always glad to see them at PAX. Crokinole is, like, again, one of the things I look forward to at PAX every single year. We had less time than usual to play it, but I'm glad that we still made some time to go and hang out there. That brings us to our final day, Sunday. So this day we also started with a preview play from Altay for a game called Alibis that's going to be coming out early next year. Now this is another word association game that feels a lot like So Clover, except a little bit more condensed and streamlined, because you're going to have a grid of 12 words and everyone on the table is going to have 2 words in that grid that they need to associate with each other. And then after everyone writes their clues, they're going to reveal them, and then in secret everyone's going to write on their board what they think each word associates with. So everyone has a symbol, and you'll mark down the 2 words with the player symbol and try to get as many matches as possible. Now the trick is that there's going to be 1 word on this grid that is not going to be used. And so you get additional points if you're able to figure out what word is not used at all. It has this really cute supervillain campy theme to it, and I love word association games. Again, I love So Clover, so I'm excited to see how this does. We also got a copy of this, and so with the holidays coming up, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to bring this to parties, and I can't wait to show Alibis off to people. Then we went over to the folks at Dead Alive Games. I have to give them a shout out for naming their company over the Peter Jackson zombie movie, Dead Alive, also known as Brain Dead. I love that movie. It's super gory, super gross, but it's a great horror movie, and I was really surprised to hear that that was the inspiration for their title of their company, but major props for that. On a totally different note, the game that caught my eye from them was called Cyber Pet Quest. Now this is a small box dungeon crawling game where you're playing as these like cybernetic pets that are trying to get back to their owners. It reminds me a lot of this comic called We 3 that's really dark. This is probably much more family friendly than that comic is. Having a small game with a very approachable theme to kind of introduce people to dungeon crawls and campaign games is really exciting. I think it's only like a 6-mission campaign, so it's not like a super long commitment. You can kind of start this and get through it in a couple of sessions. I have already started learning the rules to it. This is one game that I really wanted to dive into soon, and so I'm excited to have some videos soon to you guys to show it off a little bit. Then we went over to the Op, who had a really big presence at the show. It felt like, I think Flip 7 was a huge game of the show. They had a really cool like casino table where they were demoing it. Very good fit for that game. Gnome Hollow had a lot of cute decorations. They had like these mushroom chairs and they had like this garden. They did a nice job with that. And then they were also showing off the Avatar Aang's Destiny, which is like the Harry Potter, Hogwarts, whatever it's called, and then they kind of adapted that into telling the Avatar story, which was cool. Another all-play game that I felt was getting a ton of play was Things in Rings. I felt like this game was being played everywhere. I know it's sold out. I was hoping to get a copy for myself, but it did sell out at the show, where you're having these 3 different rings with 3 different attributes, and you need to like put cards to match the different attributes that each ring has. So it could be like a letter that it starts with, it could be like a physical property, or it could be like its place in society. It's like context in the world, I think it's what they call it. Or you need to play it in between the rings where it could be contributing to both those rings, and you have to put the word in the center. So cool party game, cool, I guess it's kind of like a deduction game really, because you're trying to figure out what those rules are. But again, I felt like I saw those 3 colored rings being played everywhere. Now this next game is the one that I think has me most excited going into 2025. This was, of all the games we demoed and tried, this is the one that left me with that feeling of, wow, I really want to play that again. And this is Zenith from Playpunk. And so we had a chance to demo this prototype of it, and this is a 1v1 or a 2v2 game where you're going to be trying to fight over the influence of these 5 different planets that are in the center board of the table. Now the way that you're going to do this is with these multi-use cards. There's 3 different factions and then 5 different colors for each of the planets, and you're going to be playing these cards to try to pull those planets to your side. There's tons of abilities on this card, and what really impressed me are the 3 different boards that make up this game. So in the center board there's the 5 planets, and you have to pull those tokens to your side to actually win the game. But above that there's the leadership board where you can discard a card of the matching faction, and then you get to do that ability, either get credits, draw cards, different things that you can do. But what I really love is the board on the bottom, that's the technology tree. And so you can also use those cards that match the different technology tracks and pay a resource to move up that technology tree where you get even more bonuses. And it has this really cool cascading effect where once you move up to tier number 2, you get every reward under it. If you go up to 3, you get every reward under it. So you keep getting rewarded if you specialize in these different technologies. It just had so many different strategies, and like, wow, I really want to try a different strategy in this game. I want to play this again. And I'm really excited. I think I don't think they gave an exact date, sometime in 2025, but definitely if you're a fan of tug of war, 1v1 or 2v2 player games, definitely check out Zenith. I think the multi-use cards, the different tracks, I think there's just a lot to this game. I'm really, really excited to hopefully play it again soon next year. We went to see Sea Cow Games with Flock together. This is a beautiful game, Andrew Bosley art that has been catching my eye. Cooperative game where you're playing as this coop of chickens trying to fight different invaders. I think it's doing a lot of interesting things in the co-op space where if you don't defeat these different invaders, they have like this little booklet and you turn the page and they get stronger and things kind of get more and more difficult as the night goes on. But I think it's presented in a really cool way. Really neat game, Flock together. Then we went over to Ares Games where they were showing off a couple new releases. Some of the ones that really caught my eye were Builders of Sylvan Dale, another kind of tile placement game, but the really cool twist to this one is that you're building tree houses. So it has these cool tiles that you're building on top of each other, building these vertical tree houses. You're building bridges in between those tree houses, trying to fulfill different scoring conditions. There's different factions involved, and just a really cool take on tile placement. It was a shame. I think a lot of the new releases that Ares had got like stuck on a train somewhere, so they didn't have them there for PAX, which is really sad because these games looked really cool and I think they would have done well there. Another new release at Ares was Altay, which is a deck building civilization game. We had a chance to get an overview of this one. This looks really cool where you have these different technologies and deck building, you're going to be adding new technologies, building out your civilization as the game goes on. It looks really cool, it has asymmetric factions. I like civilization games. They tend to be on the heavier side, so having one that looks a little more approachable looks really, really neat. And the last one, Diluvium, is a 4X game that is kind of smushed together in a 1-hour package. We actually did get a copy of this, so I'm really excited to do some coverage on it. I love 4X, Civilization, Endless Space, Stellaris, all that stuff is great on the computer, but I feel like a lot of 4X games on the board game side are just really kind of like heavy and long, but to have it in a 1-hour package, it really looks nice. I'm excited to do some coverage for this game soon. Quick shout out to the Button Shy booth who always do a nice job presenting their games. They had Elizabeth Hargrave there signing copies of Tussie Mussy and Picky Pixies. That was cool to see again this year. Now a couple of quick rapid fire games that just kind of caught my eye. Boop Holidays from Smirk and Dagger. I'm more of a fan of the spooky Boop, but it is cool to see this game getting a couple more fun reflavors. Santorini 2nd Edition over at Roxley. We love Santorini. I wish that I could get the like 2-layered thing that they have in the new edition where you can lock in the building so they don't slide around. That is probably the best quality of life improvement that game could ever get. And then we also had a chance to meet the folks at 25th Century. So I really like a lot of what they're doing. We did a witchcraft playthrough. I talked about Penguin Party on the last video, and I just like what 25th Century is doing, bringing in these games as well as developing their own, but they just really love their catalog. So it was cool to meet them. This is their first year coming to PAX Unplugged, so hopefully they return. And that will just about do it. That is a little bit of a rapid fire, just some quick first impressions of all the different games we saw. I think I got everything. I tried to write this list as soon as the show finished to like make sure I didn't forget anything, but there's just so much to see there. It was a phenomenal year, and let me know if anything I talked about, what are you most excited to see? Is there something that you want to see specifically covered on the channel? I would love to hear what you guys thought. If you went to PAX or you heard about something at PAX that I missed that I didn't mention, also let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to know what I missed. It was an overwhelming show. I tried to be everywhere all the time, and it was just not possible. So we tried to squish as much as we could in 3 days, and I think we did a pretty good job. So thank you again for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.